5 minutes after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago on this Thursday, which feels like a Friday because we are heading towards the Easter weekend. It's Good Friday tomorrow, Easter Sunday, followed by the Monday holiday. So a long weekend, very significant period for the Christian community. And of course, we've heard from Archbishop Jason Gordon emphasizing that significance. But also significant economically for the Tobago business community with the busy Easter weekend period, where there's a tremendous level of anticipation as to the number of Trinidadians who've gone across to Tobago, who'll be spending money and enjoying the restaurants and the bars and accommodation and so on. That's why we've invited Martin George of the Tobago Business Chamber to give us his perspective. He has a broad smile on his face. Maybe you're already hearing the cash register in your ears, Martin George. Good morning to you.
Yes, hi. Good morning to you, Fazil, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Fazil, it's indeed a weekend that everyone is looking forward to. But of course, you know, we have to still exercise that level of personal responsibility. And I endorse the sentiments of the Minister of Health from that news clip earlier.
And as far as, of course, we wouldn't want a situation, and of course we know all the politics that ties into it when you have a busy Easter weekend as we had last year, and then the numbers started to go upwards as far as cases. Are you concerned about that happening? Before we talk further about the economy and gas prices and so on, are you concerned that there could be a situation where so many people congregating, maybe some not following the necessary protocols, could result in some problems later on?
Well, of course, it's a serious concern because I think I saw some clips from a football match that was held at the Dwight York Stadium, and you hardly saw persons with any masks on. Everybody was there in close proximity. You know what I mean? Of course, I think everybody wants that freedom to be able to go back to what we consider to be life as normal. But the fact of the matter is that we still need to try as much as possible to exercise those levels of personal responsibility, you know, still trying to, you know, wear the masks where possible and, you know, still trying to exercise some social distancing.
When you look at the overall picture, though, as far as the business community and that sense of anticipation, I think Ms. Birchwood James has been reporting that this could be the most successful period economically when we talk about Easter weekends for a long, long time for business people in Tobago. What are you hearing from those associated with your organization, or indeed business people generally, as to their sense of anticipation for the weekend ahead?
Yes, well, I think everybody is looking forward to it. I think starting from the Chief Secretary, who asked that, you know, we have a bumper Easter weekend. So, of course, you are looking forward to it from that perspective. But one swallow does not a summer make. So, therefore, we can't seek to put all our eggs in one basket when it comes to this Easter weekend alone. We have to look at having long-term sustainable plans for the Tobago economy. I have often said, Fazil, that, you know, even the term Tobago economy, it's almost like an oxymoron, because you ask yourself, if it is that you are coming to central government every year, you know, with your begging bowl, asking for $3 or $4 or $5 billion, and you have little or no accountability in terms of you generating your own revenue, then you ask yourself, is it really an economy or is it really a dependency? So, you know, I mean, I am happy for this period and, of course, the short fillip that it would give us. But we are saying as a business chamber that we would like to see more long-term economic strategies. And I hope that this new THA administration, although I'm not sure we could still call them new, but anyway, this changed THA administration will have a changed perspective in that regard.
And are you seeing anything happening that will give you confidence? Because, of course, we have this Easter weekend coming up. There's now the Tobago Carnival at the end of October. Are these two elements? And I know they're very different in many respects. But are there examples of opportunities that you could build upon and therefore create that more sustainable long-term product?
There definitely are opportunities for you, but remember, these are event oriented. So in the sense that, Easter weekend is an event for most Trinidadians to come to Tobago, enjoy themselves. So of course, yes, you will have a spike in economic activity, and the same thing is projected for the Tobago Carnival. However, what I'm saying is that despite those events which you are happy for, there also should be a rollout of a long-term macroeconomic plan by the THA, which is why I have called upon the THA to give some clarity in terms of that Dubai Expo and the investment proposals that were put forth by the Deputy Chief Secretary. Because, in other words, you need to communicate with the public. Let us know, well, okay, this is our long-term plan. We can't keep going on short knee-jerk reactions. So you're going from event to event and you're hoping, well, that you get a little boost here, a little boost there. You must have an overall macroeconomic plan for long-term sustainable development for the Tobago economy.
And that is a discussion that hopefully we'll have time to develop even further, because this is a broader discussion beyond the immediate imperatives of this situation. But when the Easter weekend is over and people either returning in droves back to Trinidad and so on. By the way, that's another point. Before I forget, the issue of the air bridge, because Cal made much of the announcement a while back, I think it was April the 2nd, that they increased the number of flights to 24. But that is 12 one way, 12 the other way. That's correct. And again, that has already been derided
it still does not
by others.
appear enough. I saw that the Port Authority announced that they would have additional sailings, and they announced that they were going to reschedule the dry docking of one of their ships, because they actually had it scheduled for during the Easter period, which I don't understand how anybody from the Port Authority, if they live in Trinidad and Tobago, could have contemplated a dry docking during the Easter period. But I think they walked that back, and they have put on additional sailings. I am hoping to hear, if they haven't yet done so, I'm hoping to hear an announcement from Cal about additional flights, because it will be necessary. For we cannot have persons spending 4 and 5 and 6 hours in the airport, either at Piarco or A&R Robinson, waiting for a 15-minute flight. It is untenable and unsustainable.
Let me just come in here, because I was speaking to Chris James yesterday from the Tobago Hoteliers Association, and I asked him that specific question: has there been any communication to Cal about putting on more flights? And what he was told, I can only relate what he is saying, is that Cal said they have to get direction from the Ministry of Finance, because obviously each additional flight costs a certain sum of money, which maybe now from the government's point of view cannot be sustained.
Yes, but for I have given the example, and I have made it pellucid in my previous discussions, that this is not this is not a gift or something that is optional. This is a basic human right, the freedom of movement, which is guaranteed in our Constitution. If it's denied to you in the sense that there isn't available capacity, okay, because the point is, it's the government that is running the operations between the islands. So think of it for zero. If you're living in Pinal or Debe or somewhere down south, and the government were to restrict the number of maxis or buses that can run between, or taxis that can run between Deep South and Port of Spain, and say, well, look, we only have a limited capacity. What would persons from Deep South say? They will say, hey, listen, man, you're discriminating against me. Why are you treating me that way? For you, in a sense, it is as important as that. And that's why I keep hammering this point, that it is something that is essential for many Tobagonians to be able to have that freedom of movement. I mean, of course, as a holiday maker, you also want that freedom of movement and ease of travel. But the fact of the matter is, you also have, from the other perspective, some persons who it is essential to come down either for a job interview, either for medical reasons, or schooling, or anything of the sort. So we have to look at it from that perspective, and it can't be that the cabinet is insensitive to this type of need from the public.
So let me put it to you this way, okay, let me offer the counter to that. Stop complaining, Martin Jones, there are additional sailings over the weekend.
Well, the point is, yes, there are additional sailings, but not everyone uses the boat. Not everyone wants to use the boat, if you understand me. So some people prefer the ease of the flight. Some people can't take the rocking on the boat. They get nauseous and, that kind of thing. So while it's there, it doesn't mean that that's going to be the only option. You also have an air bridge, and the air bridge should be sufficiently resourced. And I'm not quite sure I understand the argument that you have to keep going back to cabinet each time you want to put on an additional flight, because the fact of the matter is you're hearing from Cal, the same Cal, that they're having these flights of fancy about having discussions with Qatar Air, and they want to have some strategic partnership with Qatar Airways. Really? You can't even do a 15-minute flight properly between Trinidad and Tobago in terms of sufficiently resourcing it, and you're talking about you want to partner with Qatar Airways. Qatar is one of the #1 airlines in the world.
And in relation to that particular, because we're going to go to the issue of subsidy and the fuel prices going up, that issue of the heavily subsidized air bridge. And obviously, Tobagonians must have an affordable avenue to Trinidad for obvious reasons, because it's a unitary state. It can't be discriminatory, as you mentioned, with the situation with a restriction of maxi taxis from the Southland. But can it really be sustained in our present environment? $300
I have long since proffered a solution to that. You offer a two-tier system. You offer an unsubsidized price and the subsidized price. There are persons who, either for business reasons, emergency reasons, or just the fact that they could afford it, will say, hey, listen, I can pay the unsubsidized price if I could get on a flight now and I get to Tobago, and when I'm in Tobago, I get on a flight one time and I get back to Trinidad. Then you would have the subsidized price, which would go through the normal booking system and the normal waiting period if you get a flight, if you don't get a flight. And that at least caters for that gap that you're talking about.
That sounds like total chaos, Martin George. I mean, really.
It's not.
Let me finish. Sorry to be argumentative in court, Mr. George. But I mean, who's going to say, you know what? I have the money, so I'll go pay the more expensive price. Who going to do that?
Fazil, people will do that, I'm telling you. It will happen. It's the same way, Fazil. Okay, if you think of it, Fazil, you're going internationally, you're in the same aircraft, you may be paying $200 for your seat in economy, and you have somebody who's paying $700 or $800 just to be in first class. It happens. People will make the choices. And what I'm saying is that way you can put on your additional flights without talking anything about additional subsidy or additional strain on the government. And the fact of the matter is that once you get to that level, where you have some persons who will opt to pay that higher price, then it reduces the load on the subsidized fare. We have to start being creative, Fazil. We can't keep doing the same things the same way and expecting different results.
And as we move in the final part of our discussion to the issue of the fuel hike, and that has dominated discussion since it was announced more than a week ago by the finance minister. What are you anticipating for business activity or indeed general activity in Tobago come Tuesday?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I would imagine that the knock-on effect of the fuel prices increase would be that everything would be, thereby affected, and you will have increases across the board. What we have said is that, look, I think this is the 4th or 5th increase in fuel prices since the government returned into office in 2015. All right, so we have to disaggregate the issues. When I heard the announcement by the Minister of Finance, he appeared to conflate the two issues of the world fuel prices increasing and the issue of the subsidies. And I don't think that is a correct approach, because they are two totally different issues. Removal of the subsidies has to be part of your long-term economic plan. The rise in fuel prices, that's something that is an event-oriented because of the Russia-Ukraine war. So I'm saying that when I heard the explanation from the Minister of Finance, I couldn't quite fathom why he was mixing the two issues. Because as a long-term economic plan, I don't think there's anybody in Trinidad and Tobago who would realistically argue against a gradual removal of the subsidies. But then, as you think back to a few years ago, Trinidad and Tobago used to rejoice when there was a rise in world fuel prices because it meant an economic windfall for us. But because of our lower levels of production, we don't really benefit from that. And then you see, when you look at it, we are now in a situation where you have now more subsidies being paid when the world fuel prices go up. But the fact of the matter is that they are two totally different issues. And I think in terms of that explanation to the public, I think the government has not done a good job in selling the idea. Hence, you get the resistance from persons who will be saying, hey, listen, come on, why is this happening now? Especially as we're now coming out of a pandemic. Businesses are now struggling to get themselves back on their feet, trying to get things back in order. So it is really like a double whammy. And as I say, the explanation has been convoluted and twisted, and there's been a total lack of clarity in terms of the government's explanation and its game plan in this regard.
Well, I mean, the response to that is obvious, Martin Joel, because this is the PNM administration and the UNC did the same thing of keeping the subsidies to nurture that culture of dependence. So here we are now, unable to stand on our own 2 feet, expecting all these things to be heavily subsidized, water rate, Tech, gas, everything. We expect to continue to live with our head in the clouds, not realizing that what has been going on, because now after 40, 50 years of that, we do not know how to do anything different.
Well, there's that for you, but there's also the fact that we need to have that reckoning in terms of what has happened to our national patrimony, what has happened to the billions of dollars that have been wasted. When I see institutions such as WASA, coming forth and saying, well, they can't continue because they need a price increase. I mean, the fact of the matter is, just think of water wastage. WASA remains the largest waster of water in Trinidad and Tobago through their aged pipeline system, whereby they themselves leak out most of the water before it gets to consumers. So when you look at Tech, which has been, an abyss of, it's like a financial black hole over the years. You just pumping more and more money into it. And the fact of the matter is that we've not gotten the return. So we need to, as I say, we need to manage this in a more holistic way, while, yes, you want to teach the public that they must be less dependent on the subsidies, but you must also lead from in front by saying, hey, listen, I'm going to get these organizations, these state organizations, WASA, Tech, even TSTT, whatever, get them to be more efficient, more effective, more profitable. And that is not happening. So in other words, the knee-jerk reaction we've seen from both governments has always been, well, okay, we need some additional funding, more taxes on the public, remove the subsidies, more pressure on the public. And yes, the public needs to share their part of the burden, but we are not seeing as a corollary to this that you've seen any improvement in this efficient service delivery by these organizations, WASA, Tech, TSTT, etc. And that is where I have a serious problem for Zero.
And before we conclude, Martin Joe, just getting back to the issue of the economic spike that is anticipated this Easter weekend, what could happen with the Tobago Carnival being held for the first time at the end of October. Given all of these realities, plus the counterbalancing impact of a rise in gas prices and other economic issues, at this stage, what is your outlook for the rest of 2022 from a Tobago business perspective?
Well, for Zero, I remain cautiously optimistic in the sense that I think that, look, notwithstanding the fact that hopefully these events will help, I want to think that Tobago business persons are looking at ways and means to ensure their own product development, make sure that they themselves get their businesses to be lean and fit and able to straddle any economic hiccups that are coming along the way. Because for you can't just look at it in terms of, a one-off, win you have to also cater for the times when things are going to be tough, and you have to make that adjustment. You have to become more efficient, more effective, and more productive. That's what business is about. You
Indeed.
know, you always take the long-term view of things rather than just the short windfall that may come your way. You have to be able to plan for a rainy day.
Indeed, Martin George, thank you very much. Indeed, well, there was quite a rainy day yesterday. I don't know how rainy it was in Tobago, but indeed, let's see how things go with the busy Easter weekend that is coming up. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Indeed, Fazil, and the very best for the Easter weekend to all of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much again, Martin George, with his perspective on the Tobago economy and Tobago business activities as they're gearing up for what should be a very busy Easter weekend period. As we go to the break, our viewer sent us this Easter amaryllis in bright sunshine before the rains came yesterday. We'll be back right after this.